Saturday View on Midlands 103. With thanks to Lumclume Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumclumeEnergy.com. Have your say. Call 0818 300 103. Text or WhatsApp your Saturday View to 083 3010 103.
And a very good morning to you, Ronan Berry here. It's time for Saturday View. Coming up on this morning's show, would you take a tax incentive to join a gym? Is that a proposal that would carry favour with you and is something you would do? Would it actually encourage people to get up off their couches and maybe join a local gym or a local sporting club? We'll look at that in just a couple of moments. Today is also World Alzheimer's Day, and September is designated as Alzheimer's Month. But today a special new report will be launched as well. But we'll hear from the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland about their report and about the work they will be doing to raise awareness around dementia and Alzheimer's for the month, and particularly today to mark the day that it is. The theme for this year is Time to Act on Dementia, and it's a subject that often comes up on Midlands 103 and it touches so many people's lives. We'll hear kind of approximately how many Irish families are affected by it in just a short while on the show. But I'm putting a call out to you today. If you are affected by it, be it a family member, a friend, if you have a partner or something or a sibling that has been affected or is affected by Alzheimer's, let me know, because it can have a huge impact. And I heard on a piece on Midlands Today recently, Will Faulkner was touching on an article in the paper where somebody was describing how they had served their mother dinner, and yet an hour or two later their mother was asking them who they were, where they first met. And Will went on to say that it's a different type of grief when you lose somebody to a disease or an illness like Alzheimer's. So let me know what your experience has been if you'd like to do so. And I don't have to read out your name on air or anything, but 083 3010 103 is the text and WhatsApp number, 0818 300 103 if you'd like to speak to us here as well. Also on the show, this week has been quite a seismic week for Irish food and for biodiversity and for organic farming, with the launch of a number of strategies and new initiatives and a really interesting new collaboration. So later on I'll be joined by Minister of State and Green Party Senator Pippa Hackett to take us through those. Lots of those things were launched at the Ploughing Championships in Ratheniska during the week. Now, I did ask a teaser with Aidan before I came on. I'm going to give it to you again, and we'll reveal the answer to this very, very shortly. No prizes, just bragging rights only. But what links the island of Sicily, Italia 90 and the National Ploughing Championships in Ratheniska? I will reveal all very, very soon. But actually, speaking of the National Ploughing Championships, one thing that a lot of us in Midlands 103 learned during the week is sometimes it can get quite warm here in the studio. But it was nothing in comparison to the heat in the outside broadcast unit and the Certa HVO roadcaster that was down in Ratheniska. Such were the temperatures. Spirits were high. No rain whatsoever at the Ploughing Championships. Has been a while since that happened, but we learned one thing: we shouldn't complain about the heat in the studio anymore. But anyway, let's try and see if there's any heat in that idea of a tax incentive for joining a gym, because this is something that's been put forward in the form of a pre-budget submission by a national sporting body, and it's been gaining kind of a little bit of debate on it online and certainly on radio over the last day or so, and there's various sides of this debate as well. But the Federation of Irish Sports, they've proposed a tax-driven incentive for gym memberships, something similar perhaps to the Bike to Work scheme, to encourage personal exercise. The objective, they say, is to combat rising obesity rates in the country by incentivising people to engage in regular physical activity. They're proposing a tax refund for personal and recreational exercise applicable to both children and also to employees. And they've even mentioned extending it to things like retirees in order, to get people and make sure that they continue being active. They've highlighted things like an employer contribution, where an employer would be able to provide up to €500 per year in gym memberships to employees as a non-taxable benefit in kind. Now, it maintains that the average gym membership is about €500 per year. And that's where we're going to start on that, because I know of one club in County Offaly and their yearly membership is not the colour of €500 a year, and that is St Bridget's Boxing Club in Edenderry, and the main man behind that, of course, is Liam Brereton. And just to give you a bit of a background to them as well, the club was established in September 1933 by a group including a banker, solicitor, principal and a member of An Garda Síochána, and it was set up to serve the children of Edenderry and surrounding areas, and the club has gone from strength to strength over the years. Now, it is a not-for-profit organisation, and and it's open to all members of the community for quite a modest yearly fee. And Liam will tell us exactly what that is now. Good morning, Liam.
Good morning, how are you?
Liam, how much is it to join Edenderry Boxing Club for the year?
At the moment, it's for under 11s, it's €20 a year, and then from 11 up to 90, we actually put up to €40 a year this year, but there's no weekly fee or monthly fee.
Still,
so it's €40 a year, and that's it.
Very, very modest overall too. But this kind of submission by this body to look at tax incentives, do you think, is there any merit in it?
Look, from my side of things, it's anything to get someone into a gym is grand. But yeah, no, I'm totally against it, because to me it will get a few extra in, but you'll get people going ahead just for the tax incentives. Like, I actually know where there's a bike at the moment that costs €1,500 that was bought on the bicycle scheme, and I'd say it was never ridden, but because it was blah blah blah. But you know what I mean? And there was a tax incentive to use the bike. It was bought, but like, it didn't get anyone out riding. Like, our club, where I see them where they want to promote sport and get people active. Like, the amount of parents that come to me looking for box exercise classes, you know, we probably can't afford to go to, as you said, some of these hefty prices in gyms. But if I take in a person in the morning to volunteer to help in the club, for me to train them up, it's going to cost them €400 to train up as a coach, to be allowed to coach kids on the floor. Then they have to, obviously, the child protection course, which is another €25 or €20, I think. You know what I mean? We need all these things. But then turn around, you're going to drive home from Dublin after working hard all day, and you're going to come into the club then and give up your time for nothing, after it costing you to become a volunteer. And no tax incentives for that whatsoever. Where if they're going to give tax incentives, give it to a volunteer that's spending so many hours a week in a club. And that would create where I'd be able to take maybe 20 more kids and maybe do a box exercise classes for adults, you know, in our area, because we'd have extra coaches and extra staff and extra volunteers, because there'd be an incentive for volunteers. But the first thing, when a volunteer comes into my door, I have to say, now you have to go and get carded vetted, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. It'll cost you €400 for a course. And maybe in 3 months' time, we'll have you ready to go on the floor and help us with the kids. So, like, to me, if they made things easier that way, and we had more volunteers in clubs, I think we'd get more people active and joining clubs like our own club around than it would than giving a tax incentive to go and join Ben Dunn's gym at €500 or €600 a year or whatever the fee is.
And then you get the bragging rights. You can say, well, I'm a member of X, Y or Z gym. It doesn't mean you have to go as well. But I think you raise a really, really interesting point on this, because, you know, we all know anyone that's involved or has kids or family or anybody playing within any sort of sports club or any organisation knows that there is a shortage of volunteers out there. And yes, more and more needed, because some clubs are growing, huge numbers of kids as well. And you know, we need more people now to manage kids in particular. But across all levels, you know, even administration, there's a huge need for more volunteers. So certainly see merit in a tax incentive for those volunteers. But even from your own perspective as a club, and you've raised this recently as well, you're a not-for-profit, and that in itself presents challenges, particularly around things like VAT.
Oh yeah, it's great. Like I just said, like I told someone during the week, we paid an ESB bill during the week, and there's VAT in it. We've been lucky enough in our club now, and we've been well supported by Offaly County Council and Offaly Leader Programme. You know, we do get the grants and we get the funding. I keep banging at the doors and I keep arguing, but we do the work and we bring in the kids. But when they give us a grant, we'll say 10 grand. All of a sudden, that's not 10 grand that we get, because if we go and buy something with that, we're going to pay 23% VAT in it. So it's actually 7 that we're getting. Or if we get a big job and get a builder in, and then he charges 13.5% for labour and 23% for goods. Like, there's a good slice of it gone straight away. And then the paperwork amongst it. Like, you spend an hour on the floor with a group of kids, you spend 3 hours then after on a computer making sure everything paid and everyone has to be registered. I know we need all this, But the one person can't. It's volunteers we're lacking, and like if we had that extra few pounds, if we were VAT free, the fact that we can't claim VAT, we're seen as a charitable organisation, and all clubs are basically. We shouldn't be paying VAT. We should be VAT exempt, and to me that'd be a major start in actually bringing, being able to afford ESB bills and insurance. Like before we open the door every year. Before we open the door, we let a kid on the floor between insurance, affiliation, and ESB and heating and all that. We're looking at $6,000 a year in a small club. Now, if you multiply that by 20, our membership last year was €20. We need 300 members just to open the door. We can't facilitate 300 members with 6-7 volunteer coaches. So, like, when they're looking at helping clubs and getting people active, they actually have to go back to the grassroots, walk into the club. Like some of these people that are making decisions, they've never actually been in a club, or they've never actually volunteered in a club.
So there is a sense that if you were running a large, maybe multi-location commercial gym, that this idea could potentially benefit you a little bit more, but it's missing out that grassroots piece as well, because yourselves at your core, it's going since 1933, and it really is about giving kids and giving people an outlet, get them, off the streets, give them something to do, and to their focus. Particularly important these days where people are just stuck in social media maybe and doom scrolling, as they say. So like clubs like yours, you're providing a crucial service to the community.
Yeah, of course. And not just their own. You have the kayak club and the club, the GA club, the soccer club. Every club where there's volunteers working, you know what I mean, is benefiting. Like we're actually in the process now of starting classes with Auckland's college with their TY students, where they're going to come down to us a class, one of their TY classes each day, 4 days for 3 or 4 week program. So it's not just, we do work with the kids in the town. We work with the schools, and we do a fitness program in the school, and all this is voluntary. Like we the kid not going to, but just something that happened. We the kid that came in the last week or two, and very nervous lad, and didn't get on in big groups, and and suffers from this bit of anxiety, and and he came in the other night, and he was looked after the very same as one of the Irish champions or the international boxer was. And the more coaches you have, then the more volunteers you have, then the more the benefits the likes of them kids, and gets them off the street and gives them a place to go. Like, it's not all about winning titles for me and anyone that knows me in the club. That titles are great and the championships are great. But to me, it's the one that keeps coming back. And when we close off in the summer and come back in September, that one has come back and is a member with you for the following year. That to me, and you'll keep them, and they could turn out to be a good coach down the road. Like I had 7 brothers who were all Irish champions, and some of them Olympians. I was the worst of them, but I'm the only one that's coaching. You know what I mean? So it's you have to cater for everyone, and to me, yeah, it's a good incentive. It'll help a commercial gym, and it's great to see to do employ people and to do provide a service and this, that, and the other. But I think if they want to get people active, take the VAT off charities, take the VAT off charity clubs. We shouldn't be paying VAT, and then we might be able to afford, when someone comes in and wants to volunteer, that we might be able to afford to pay for their coaching course and their child protection course, and get them on the floor quicker, and keep them when the idea is in their head that they want to help, that we can jump on them. But like, if someone comes in to me in the morning and they want to help on the floor, I can't let them on, and then they're kind of looking at me as if, he doesn't want me. It's not that I don't want them. The rules and regulations which we need in this day are there, but it shouldn't cost the coach €400 or a volunteer €400 to get a cert to say he can train kids. And the other thing that really riles me is if you're a school teacher and you're teaching kids in the school all your life, and you come down to the boxing club, you can't work with the kids in the boxing club, because you need to be guard vetted under the IABA, and I'm guard vetted under the IABA. And if I go down to the GA club, I can't do the GA because I have to be guard vetted under the GA. I can't understand why there's not one national Garda vet that covers all sports, where
yeah,
we can
absolutely.
move
Because
around.
as I said, it's hard enough to get people to volunteer in the first instance, and whilst people will absolutely respect the need for all those courses, if it's seen as a barrier, you can understand why. And other people are certainly in agreement with you around this. Somebody has said, "Morning, Ronan, if the government is going to give tax incentives," again, this is just a proposal that the Federation of Irish Sport have put in ahead of the budget to give tax incentives to gyms. Surely sports clubs are deserving of the same. I'm in a riding club, so I have to exercise my horse all week to compete at the weekend, and riding clubs have active members from teens to people in their 70s. Surely we deserve tax breaks too. Horse riding is a great way to keep fit and active. That came in from Trish, and I think we'd absolutely agree with you. And I think, Liam, you've raised a great point there that yes, the VAT maybe should be examined because, okay, some charities are probably of such a large organisation, they can probably absorb that cost of VAT. But I think for organisations like yourselves, there should be certainly some leeway on that. But that idea of giving tax incentives for people who volunteer, I think there could be a lot of merit in that. And I suspect a lot of listeners might agree with you. But for now, Liam Brereton, keep up the fantastic work at St. Bridget's Boxing Club in Edenderry. And thanks for coming on this morning.
Okay, good luck. Take care.
Thank you, Liam. And be interested to see now what does come out in the budget, whether that submission gains any traction. But if you're in a sporting club or an organisation or anything that provides a form of physical activity, and as Trish has pointed out there, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's during a match or a specified game. There can be lots of ways activity can be generated. Maybe there's something in that too, and maybe something can be done on the VAT in order to help these clubs. Because when you hear someone like Liam talking and about the service they deliver to our communities, it'd be hard to imagine and a shame to imagine our communities without them. But anyway, thank you for that. Keep your text coming in 083 30 10 103. I will go back to that little teaser I sent to you as to what links Sicily, Italia 90 and the National Ploughing Championships in Ratheniska. Well, there's one thing in particular and one man. This clip will give it away for you.
Giannini looks for Donadoni. Good parry. Schillaci has scored again.
The unmistakable voice of Jimmy McGee commentating on Toto Schillaci's goal against Ireland in Italia 90, and he was the top scorer in that tournament, and he passed away sadly yesterday following a just almost 2-year battle with colon cancer. But what links him? Well, he was from Sicily, he was born there, and the son of a rubbish collector, actually, a bin man, but he really hit the heights in Italia 90 and became in some ways an Irish folk hero of sorts, because remember, he appeared in certain adverts. But how he links to Italia 90, obviously was playing for the Italian national team and brought in late in the day and ended up being the top scorer in the tournament. And he was in Ratheniska 2 years ago at the Ploughing. One of the large supermarkets had him there with Ray Houghton as part of a kind of a head-to-head and a reuniting them then. But I think the two guys were actually really great friends. So he was actually at the National Ploughing Championships in Ratheniska, not this week, but actually 2 years ago as well. And obviously around the time must have then received his diagnosis, but he sadly passed away yesterday and has been very, very fondly remembered across the world. And even in RTE's Eamon Horn from Ballycumber in County Offaly has been writing about him as well and fondly remembers watching him and all his exploits. And he says how loads of pets, dogs, iguanas, snakes, cats, anything you could name in Italy were named. Generations of them were named after Salvador Schillaci, better known as Toto. And Eamon reminisced and says that he remembers watching as a 14-year-old perched on a pool table in Gavin's pub in Ballycumber, County Offaly, with Sidona and Tato in abundant supply before the taste of Montepulciano kicked in. And he says it still resonates with him. So fond memories. I think a lot of us of a certain age really remember Toto Schillaci. But he passed away yesterday. May he rest in peace. Time now for a very short break. After that, the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland will be on to talk about Alzheimer's Month, which is September 2024. But today in particular, Saturday the 21st, is Alzheimer's Day.
Saturday View on Midlands 103 with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. lumcloonenergy.com.
I mentioned the National Ploughing Championship there just before the break. I must say a big hello to Mick and Teresa Mahon from County Offaly and to Martin and Irene Gormley from Galway, and I say a big thank you for your wonderful hospitality on Tuesday. Everybody enjoying the weather and enjoying a good old cup of tea. Nothing beats an old cup of tea and a sandwich at the Ploughing, does it? They're all regular listeners too, so thank you for that. And on actually Tuesday's Taking Care of Business, You'll hear from some of the great businesses from around the Midlands that are exhibiting at the Ploughing Championships. People like Ford Distillery in Westmeath, Flavour Safari in Laois, Tappy Tag in Athlone and Castle Paints in Tullamore. That's all coming up and taking care of business from 7 on Tuesday evening. But today, Saturday the 21st of September, marks World Alzheimer Day. And September marks World Alzheimer's Month. And we're reminded this month of the growing impact of dementia, with over 64,000 people affected in Ireland alone. The theme this year is Time to Act on Dementia, and we're being urged to take steps towards a dementia-inclusive society. To look at this a bit deeper and look at some of the key stats and key objectives of this month's World Alzheimer's Month, I'm delighted to be joined by Hugh O'Donoghue, Communications Manager at the Alzheimer Society of Ireland. Very good morning, Hugh.
Good morning.
Hugh, take us through. I mean, the month is marked at raising awareness around dementia and Alzheimer's. What in particular are you trying to highlight this month?
So this month, so I suppose World Alzheimer's Month this year, the theme is Time to Act on Dementia. So that's encouraging individuals, everyone out there, communities, governments to take active steps towards a dementia-inclusive society. And this month, it's been very busy for us as it is World Alzheimer's Month. We've had research events, and as you said, we were at the ploughing as well last week, and then tomorrow is our memory walk. So that's one of our biggest fundraising campaigns.
And is that memory walk, is that in a specific location or can it be done at multiple points?
It's in 40 locations nationwide. So there will be a couple in Westmeath, Offaly and Kildare. They're everywhere, over 40.
Absolutely, but if we look at some of those basic numbers behind it, like I've mentioned there, the sheer number of Irish people and indeed families that are affected by dementia, and that number growing steadily, I'd imagine.
Well, we do have an ageing population, and so it is expected to rise to 150,000 by 2045 of people living with dementia. But as we often say, dementia is something that needs a community to get behind. It's not just a condition that affects one person. It affects their family. It also affects the community around them. So, we work with Understand Together as well. So they're an organisation that aims to create a more dementia-inclusive Ireland. So we would be encouraging everyone out there to try to make their community as dementia-inclusive as possible.
You're also trying to reduce the stigma around dementia and predict that people with dementia face. Can you talk to us more about that and what you hope to achieve?
Absolutely. With any kind of condition like this, talking about it is key. So what we're aiming to do is get people out there talking about it. And people have been very good at us in sharing their stories. And we'd encourage anyone who does have a connection to dementia and would like to share their stories, they can reach out to us by going to our website. We'd love to hear from them.
And you mentioned too how it is about bringing the entire community together, from individuals who may be suffering from dementia to their families to the community around them, but also government as well. We're at a crucial time of year. There's a general election pending. Many are predicting it's coming way before Christmas. Taoiseach himself is suggesting it'll be after Christmas, but the budget is coming up in just over a week and a half's time, and you're looking for some, real kind of action within that as well.
That's it. Every year we release our pre-budget submission, and this year is no different. But it all costs money to provide our supports and services. So any support we can get from the government and that is hugely appreciated.
Absolutely. And you are trying to raise that message too around looking at dementia-friendly communities too. What is that looking? Is that a physical thing or is that just a behavioural thing that you're hoping to do with that?
So that's both, Ronan. So it would be a case that we're encouraging shops and businesses to become more dementia inclusive. We do that as well with Understand Together. So there's a range of trainings available. So shops and businesses can become dementia inclusive, so they can, I suppose, best cater to people living with dementia and their families through the training.
And today, as well as marking World Alzheimer Day, we'll also see the launch of the World Alzheimer Report 2024. Has that been released yet? Can you take us through any particular findings in that?
Unfortunately, I don't have that to hand yet, but if anyone is interested, they can go to Alzheimer's Disease International and follow their social channels, and they'll be releasing that sometime today.
Fantastic. Yeah, and look at again a huge thing, and people are texting in as well, just letting you know, you get a sense of kind of just how many people and families around the Midlands are affected by it. And I think one thing that is a message that needs to be put out there too is that the early diagnosis and the support service that are available too.
That's correct. And anyone out there who wants support with a dementia diagnosis, they can call our helpline. We have a wonderful helpline staffed by amazing people and volunteers. So that number is 1-800-341-341, and we'd be more than happy to help out anyone who needs it.
Well, Hugh O'Donoghue, Communications Manager, the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, thank you so much for that today, and here's to continued success on your campaign. And those walks that Hugh referred to there, and there are a number of them taking place around the Midlands. In Westmeath, tomorrow it is at 12 p.m. in Belvedere House, and the distance you can select is 1.5 or 3 kilometres, and the meeting point is the reception at Belvedere House. In Laois, it is Ballyrone Abbey GAA, and the meeting point is just the GAA club grounds. It's at 11 a.m. and a 2 kilometre or 3 kilometre distance. In Offaly, Lochbura, starting at 1 p.m, distance 3.3 kilometres or 5 kilometres, and the meeting point, Ballycommon Bakehouse Cafe there on site. I just want to double check the date of that, whether it's today or tomorrow. I'll confirm that for you in just a second. But there are a number of events taking place around the Midlands, and keep an eye around, public spaces, because lots of other things happening as well. The Alzheimer's Association information bus will be coming to the Bridge Centre in Tullamore on Friday of next week. And the MRHT, that's the Midland Regional Hospital Tullamore Older Persons team, will be starting their Positive Ageing Week on Friday the 27th in the Bridge Centre, Tullamore, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with an information stand. They'll be promoting everything positive about ageing. Some of the team members will be on hand to give advice and guidance, and even help check if you are ageing well. And undoubtedly, dementia, Alzheimer's comes into that very, very much so. So that's Friday the 27th in the Bridge Centre, and the Alzheimer's Association information bus will be there on the day too. So lots of things happening for Alzheimer's Month, World Alzheimer's Month 2024. Keep an eye out and see how you can get involved. Thank you to everyone for the text so far. And time for a quick break. After that, we're going to look into and dip into what has been really kind of a standout week for Irish food and biodiversity and organic farming in the country.
Saturday View on Midlands 103, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. lumcloonenergy.com.
Before the break there, I kind of made reference to what is pretty much a monumental, or indeed a seismic week in terms of Irish food and organic farming and biodiversity. And a lot of this kind of centres around the Ploughing Championships as well. But even yesterday, the first National Youth Food Summit took place up in Dublin too, and one of the speakers at that is with me at the minute. Senator Pippa Hackett is Minister of State at the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, with responsibility for land use and biodiversity since June 2020, and joins me in studio now, particularly to talk about things like the National Organic Strategy that was launched at the Ploughing as well. But also this week we see new collaborations between Quilcha and the National Parks and Wildlife Service and the Slieve Blue Mountains. There's an area that being designated as one of the first national parks for a biodiversity project there. That, and we see Irish produce being promoted and being given kind of EU status, and new labels like geographical indication, GI labels, and other things like that. So again, putting a huge emphasis on the quality, the provenance of Irish food, what it does, but also putting a huge focus on the potential of organic farming. Minister Hackett, very good morning.
Good morning, Ronan. How are you doing?
This organic strategy, take us through some, I suppose, the key points and the key objectives of it.
Yeah, I suppose, look, it was launched, the organic strategy was launched at the Ploughing during the week. It takes us up to the end of this decade, to 2030. And I suppose it's fair to say since 2020, we've seen a really sizable increase in the number of organic farmers, the desire among consumers for more organic food, and certainly the government has backed that very much with a 5-fold increase in supports for organics across the board. So I think we're seeing that now, that the land area has increased from about 1.6% to 5% of the agricultural land. The number of farmers has gone up from about 1,600 or thereabouts to about 5,000 now. So we have a target. The EU are very much strong about driving on organic production. I mean, to be honest, it's seen as very much a catch-all in terms of environmental sustainability. It's good for biodiversity, as you were talking about. It's good for water quality. It's good for climate emissions. It's better for animal welfare. So it's something the EU are driving on. It's something we have now in our strategy and our government policies to drive on to try and get those figures up to 10% by 2030. So it's really building on what's happened over the last number of years, this strategy. And I suppose it's building on all the work that's gone in across the sector, not only from the farmers, but also from advisory services like Teagasc or the ACA. Board B have put their shoulder to the wheel. They have a standalone organic marketing strategy expert. They are looking at promoting organic food across Europe domestically. So there's definitely been a seismic shift in organic farming over the last number of years. And I think it is to be welcomed. Another
part of that strategy as well would be increase the wholesale value of organic produce from 200 million to 750 million by 2030.
Yeah, absolutely.
But still probably only, there's a tip of the iceberg in terms of potential.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, Ireland, when you compare Ireland to the rest of the EU, like, we're really only getting going. I think it's fair to say, like, we weren't really supporting the organics farming system here in Ireland until 2020. It was stagnant there, about 1 or 2% of the land and the output and so forth. So we're definitely seeing a change in that. But we're still well behind the EU averages, certainly in terms of land area. I think the average land area at the EU level is probably around 10 or 11% now. Some countries are up around 23, 25%. But what is interesting about those farmers who are converting to organic farming, they tend to be younger than the average farmer. There tend to be more women in it. And a lot of them are quite innovative in their views. So they're interested in adding value to what they produce. So that value will come, and the projections are we will increase the value of the organic sector to €750 million, which is a big, it's a sizable chunk of the agricultural market. And there's great interest in it, and I'm really thrilled to see it, to be honest.
When you mentioned the younger farmer in particular, is that a kind of a suggestion that even at that succession level that farming families are having these discussions about looking at converting the farm, or are the older generations equally as getting behind this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. It might be that, but certainly I think data from across Europe shows that the succession piece is easier for some reason or other, whether it's just the interest from younger people in farming organically. To be honest, if I say this all the time, it's not for every farmer, it's not for every farm, but if it will work for you, you are building resilience into your farm. Input costs, as everyone farmer knows, have gone through the roof in the past number of years. An over-reliance on fossil fuel-based fertilisers is going to be a challenge in the years ahead. We know we have to wean every sector of the economy off fossil fuels. Agriculture is no different. So I think there's a certain resilience-building piece that is important for farmers of the future. And you did mention at the start about the Youth Forum, and I think that connection between food, the future, resilience, food production, farming, biodiversity, hen harriers, you name it. It's all very much knitted together, and maybe up until now we've looked at those things in very sort of separate pockets, but it is generally a holistic approach is needed.
Coming together, because actually I spoke to Leo Clancy, the Chief Executive Officer of Enterprise Ireland, on Tuesday at the Ploughing, and he said how the need to feed people is not going away, and he was saying that in reference to the Irish ag-tech sector and just agri-business sector in Ireland as well. And he said that there's a renewed awareness around that need, that we will need to feed more people, not just in Ireland but globally as well. So that National Food Summit that you spoke at yesterday up at Airfield Estate, and it was targeted at youths from junior infants right up to young professionals as well. The first of its kind. What was the kind of key message, and what did you take from it?
Really, I think it is about that forward thinking, and I suppose one of the parts of what I said was that the young people of today are the sort of the change makers, and they will be the leaders and of every industry and every part of the economy in the future. And I think it is fair to say that younger people do have a keen interest in climate change. I think they've more of an interest than my generation would have had in things like biodiversity and water quality. They're very acutely aware of that, and they get it through the schools and they see it now. And that is going to be, that has challenges not only for food production, but the other way around. Food production also challenges those things. So we have to come up with a balanced, sustainable system of food production in the years ahead. It's also about supporting countries like many African countries, and I had the privilege last year of visiting Kenya and Tanzania as part of St. Patrick's Day programme. But there you see the work that is being done, supported in a lot of ways through Irish Aid to support indigenous producers there, because Ireland isn't going to be able to feed all of Africa or all of any part of the country. We produce food for maybe 40 or 50 million people. That is a drop in the ocean in terms of the global population. But what Ireland can do is support other countries to develop techniques and processes in their own country that help them become more sustainable. Because the way things are going, we see the challenges even now with conflict, with climate change, with migration. That will get worse, So we have actually a leading role to play, and our youth have a leading role to play in terms of not only supporting our own systems here, but also supporting those in other more challenged and more vulnerable parts of the world.
And within that kind of, I suppose, looking locally and also looking globally too, like part of from a horticultural perspective with the new strategy is to reduce the percentage of imports, which are currently about 70%, to about 50% of retail sales by 2030. And again, 20% reduction is a probably huge volume of actual grains, vegetables and stuff coming into the country as well. One can understand why that would be. I mean, I went to a shop recently and the little one wanted an apple while we were shopping, so I picked up a box of organic apples. When I went home, they came from Italy. And And you're kind of going like, there's apples growing, neighbours are putting apples out that they can't get rid of at the minute, and there was Italian apples in, and fair enough, that's part of a single currency market and all that as well. But from that perspective of looking at the food production, reducing those emissions too, or reducing the amount of imports coming in and attracting people back into that sector, it's going to take money as well. We're coming up towards a budget too. What sort of money is this strategy putting aside to assist existing farmers, or as maybe farmers who are not currently organic but would like to make that transition?
Well, certainly for the past number of years we have put in significant funds each year to support farmers to convert to organics across the board, whether they're beef, sheep farmers, some dairy farmers, tillage farmers and growers, horticultural growers. So, I mean, I won't be getting into budget details here, but I'm hopeful I'll be able to reopen the organic farming scheme for another tranche of farmers to enter, farmers and growers. So, but ultimately, it also is about supporting them with advice, guidance, and giving them a strong signal that the market is there for their produce. That's sometimes been a bit of a criticism, saying, oh, the market doesn't exist for organics. Look, it does, but we have put in a lot of work. There's a big demand on the European side. There's a big demand at a domestic level as well. If people have the opportunity to buy it, they will. Yes, sometimes it is a little bit more expensive, but sometimes it isn't. And I think it's just the desire is there to support that. And I think we're seeing more and more farm walks across the country. We're seeing more farmers interested in it. And I say all the time, as I said at the start, look, it might not be for everyone. The government isn't trying to force this on any particular farmer. It is an option, and there's a lot of farmers interested in it. I think it's an exciting time. So, look, I look forward to being able to secure as much money as I can for the sector for next year. Who knows what will happen after that? But, we'll have an election before the next government.
Absolutely,
that's for sure.
And we know you're going to be a general election candidate as well. So interesting. Can you tell us when it's happening? No,
I can't, unfortunately. No, if only we all knew.
I think we all know.
Well, listen, we'll have to see how it goes. But I think, look, everyone's on election ready mode anyway at this stage. And look, I think it's been a good 4.5 years of this government. Not everyone might agree with me, but I think we've been progressive. I think we've delivered lots of initiatives and exciting, laid down the path for the future. Because whatever happens and whatever people think, the future has to be sustainable and the future has to be green.
And in terms of green, I suppose, and working on that kind of provenance of Irish food as well, even this week at the Ploughing, yourself and Minister Charlie McConnell and Commissioner Mairead McGuinness were actually urging Irish food producers to consider applying for a PGI or PDO status, which is protected designation of origin or protected geographical indication. And Ireland maybe ranks quite low in European countries. There's 3,600 producers across Europe have that EU quality mark. Only 13 are Irish. You're asking people to really consider that. Why?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it does add another layer of information, certainly for consumers, particularly whether here or in Europe. And we aren't particularly good at that. I suppose we've always just sold something as Irish and thought that, and that sometimes is enough, but other times it isn't. But certainly this week, it was the launch of, we've had a number of products, PGI'd or PDO'd for a number of years, but the PGI grass-fed beef was the particularly new one. I think there is opportunity there. I mean, it'd be great to see something even from the Midlands region. I mean, you do get Connemara lamb, you've got Achill sea salt. Why not something from the Midlands, some Offaly, PGI? I mean, PDO is even stronger. PDO is protected designation of origin, where the food is produced, it's grown, or it's packaged, it's processed here. Everything comes from the one area. I think there's lots of opportunity here across the Midlands for food producers to come together.
I'm sure somebody like Kevin Scully of the Merry Mill in County Laois is probably listening, because
I was chatting to Kevin during the week.
Their own organic mill on site.
I mean, he's nearly doing the whole lot all together.
Absolutely,
So there's a great example there. So absolutely.
Fantastic.
So and Kevin's organic, of course, as well.
Absolutely. Well, Senator Pippa Hackett, Minister of State at the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine, thank you so much for coming this morning. I know you're time pressed. I will let you out now. Thank you for that as well. And definitely not going to tell us when the general election is coming up. We can keep guessing at that one. Just a little clarification there on those dementia walks that Hugh O'Donoghue mentioned. They're taking place tomorrow, and you can register through the Alzheimer Society website. So there's one in Offaly at Lochbura at 1 p.m, Laois at Ballyrone Abbey GAA at 11 a.m, and Westmead and Belvedere House at 12 p.m. And they're relatively short distance, 1.5-3 kilometres kind of an average. And the one in Offaly can be up to 5 kilometres if you wish as well. But definitely worth getting involved in joining in and helping raise a few funds as well for such a vital organisation and a vital charity. So if you are about tomorrow, definitely worth joining in, and keep an eye out around, as I say, Midlands public locations too. Lots of stuff happening in terms of raising awareness around dementia and creating dementia friendly communities, and just I suppose making us all aware of how and what to do and how to deal with that, and if that is something that we do have to deal with and are faced with as well. But just I would say a big thank you to all today's contributors, to Liam Brereton from Edenderry Boxing Club, talking about that plan by Sports Federation Ireland to have tax incentives or tax breaks for people to join gyms to get them moving. I think Liam raised a really, really valid point, that why incentivise somebody to just take out a gym membership and get some tax back on it? Why not give tax breaks to the actual volunteers who are giving up huge amounts of time, who are trying to race back, be it from work or wherever they might be, get home, get back out, and to keep those smaller clubs and all these clubs vibrant. I mean, and this goes right up to large scale level, like county boards, etc., where there's a huge amount of volunteering going on. Why not have some form of incentive there? Surely it's easy to prove that somebody has been contributing and putting the time in, and maybe it doesn't have to be a major tax break, but anything on tax break is better than not. And listen, I think Liam raised a really valid point there, and thank you to Pippa Hackett as well for coming in, Senator Pippa Hackett and Minister of State, because lots of really interesting and quite game-changing initiatives and strategies launched at the Ploughing this week as well. So worth checking out if you want to do so. Time for me to say goodbye. Lorraine McCormick will be with you next. She's not going to be in studio because she is coming to you live from Harbour Street Shopping Centre in Mullingar, with thanks to Zero Broadband, and she'll tell you all about that a little bit later. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll talk to you all on Tuesday evening for Taking Care of Business.
Saturday View, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. lumcloonenergy.com.